This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it is time for Avoid the Maze. Avoid the maze, that journey through life. And, when we're little kids, we already think we know our journey. We're going to be a policeman, a doctor, a nurse, a teacher. Then we get to a certain age and we start questioning, well, is that what I really want to be? Maybe I'd really rather be a rock star. Or maybe I want to be a model. We're constantly changing. And as much as those thoughts are changing, so is our weight. And my guest today is Hines. And Erin, I have to tell you, I grew up in a family where my mother was on yo-yo diets her whole life. And I thought that was not the way I wanted to live my life. And I was pretty good at keeping my weight down up until about my 40s, and then the struggles began. But I've made weight and weight loss just part of my life. No yo-yo diets, just trying to eat properly. So I know you have clients and you talk to them about this journey. So tell us how you got involved.
Yeah, so I kind of got involved with exercise. I guess when I was like 16, trying to find out if I wanted to play sports in high school or college or whatnot. So I kind of piddled around, I guess you'd say, a little bit. Didn't really know what I was doing. But I met a guy whose son was on the football team who I guess we met, and he was a former bodybuilder back in, I guess, the 80s. And that's kind of how I got kind of involved as far as strength training wise for that. But as far as that goes, that's always a learning curve for most people. It's not ever, I call it fun when you first start out working out, because things hurt, they're sore, you're not sure if you want to do this long term or not. But fast forward, I'm almost 38 and I've been working out consistently at least 3 to 4 days a week. But through that journey of like exercise, I played offensive line in high school. You kind of think those guys have to be really big and somewhat in shape. I was what you could probably consider undersized and more in shape than most. So coming into college, playing small college football, I was only weighed like 235, which I thought was probably good enough to play a different position, but that's what I got recruited as, playing offensive line. So, got there, was the only person who made all my run times for offensive line and lifting metrics and whatnot. So I thought I was doing pretty well, I guess, except for the fact that, to be introed into the quote unquote offensive line fraternity, every Friday they wanted you to go to the local Chinese buffet and eat 4 plates of food, and you had to eat 4 plates of food and ice cream. And that was kind of, if you could do that, you were in. And just, being that kind of mindset of just eating your way to the top, I guess, with amount of calories and whatnot. I guess you would say I began to kind of that mindset even when I was done. I only played for 2 years and I was like, this is not for me. So I moved on, and then it was like, man, I was working out, I was eating like I would when I was playing, and then the weight started to creep up. So I've had my bouts of being almost 270 pounds, as low as 200 pounds, back up to 265, down to 230, and it's just the ebbs and flows of kind of life, stress, and those things. But I kind of use those stories today to kind of relate with my clientele, even though a lot of the clients that I work with are women, although they may think I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I've been there. I've lost weight, and I just try to find ways to kind of relate that with what works best for you is going to be, it's going to be great for you. What works best for me is for me, right? So we're not trying to yo-yo diet. We're not trying to look at the latest fad or the whatever celebrities doing this. I'm just like, let's find something that works for you, and if it works, let's do it. If not, let's try to change course. So that's kind of what's led me to run my business for the last 7 years, helping people lose weight, find the motivation to live a healthier lifestyle, whether that's, just through movement, strength training, and a little bit of weight loss. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with that. So I've dealt with the weight gain, weight loss. I'm kind of what I consider myself kind of in that moderate range right now. I work out 6 days a week, trying to eat right, track my calories. Super tedious, but that's what works for me. So that's what I keep doing.
I love how you keep saying what works for you, because we are all different. We're all our bodies are all different. We all have different chemical reactions going inside our bodies. And so when you go to a doctor or nutritionist and say, hey, I want to lose 20, 30 pounds, for some people, that might take a lot of extra work. And when I say work, it means movement. And we all get to a certain age where we just don't want to move as much. But I think for me, that had been my biggest downfall. I thought I was moving enough, but I wasn't. And, I've made it my lifestyle. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to find, I don't even want to call them exercises anymore. Because when I say exercise, in my head, it means I got to go ride the bike, then I got to go walk, and then I have to lift weights or whatever. I just make it part of my lifestyle. So like last night, I was sitting on the bed, I picked up the weights, and I was doing arm stretches with the weights. And my husband looked at me and he goes, every time I look at you, you're doing something different. And I said, because it fits at that moment in time. And I don't feel forced. So you say that a lot of women, you have more women as your clients. And, they say men lose weight easier than women. Is that what you've seen as well? Or is that a fallacy?
I don't, it's kind of hard to decide. I always think about it's how much work you put into it. Some may come off quicker, or you may think it comes off quicker in men just because you might be able to notice it more with that. But I'm always to the point where I would say you get out what you put into it. So if you're going to be super disciplined, you're going to do X, Y, and Z 3 to 4 days a week. You're going to hit your caloric intake and be super disciplined. I mean, you can lose as much or as little as you want to. I don't know that. So my population is probably closer to 50 and up, and I would say, it's a little bit harder. But I mean, I've had 60-year-old women, 65-year-old women lose 60, 50, 60 pounds just by being disciplined and putting forth the effort. So it probably will maybe come off quicker in men for some, but women as well. I mean, it really depends on what you're wanting to do for that. So I would say it always depends, and I know that's the boring answer, but depends on the person, depends on what you're wanting to accomplish. I mean, weight loss is great, but it's also, for me, it's like, for some, it's more like, how are we feeling? The scale might not be moving, but your body composition is changing. You look better. You look like you've got more energy. People are starting to notice. So sometimes, I like to throw the scale away and just like, now, how are we doing the last couple of weeks? Are you sleeping better? You have more energy. You feeling like you're able to do the things you want to around the house without being so, tired. And, for some that's great. And some may want a little bit more for that. So, but for the women I have, I would say, and this is just my population, they like to drink a lot of wine. So wine is good, but you're not going to lose the weight you want by drinking half a bottle or a bottle a day or every other day, right? So I think that's why they like to work out, is because they like the foods they like the drinks they like, and this is kind of, I meet them where they are, right? So it's just kind of, it's a little bit different, kind of where I'm at and my approach to that. So to kind of circle back through, I've seen both lose quick and I've seen both lose super slow. So it's just about my thought and my statement to them is like, how long did it take you to get to where we are now?
Right.
just think about that. If it took you 3 or 4 years, I've been there. It took me 3 years at a terrible job to gain 50 pounds. And the effort I put to lose it was 6 months. So it could take you twice as long. So small incremental gains and successes are kind of where it's at long term, right?
Absolutely. And I love how you said you meet your clients where they're at, and that's important. You know, my mother was always the one who, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them, but she would have to go to Weight Watchers. She'd have to go to one of the programs that were out there and
Mhm.
get herself weighed and have somebody tell her what to eat. And if she didn't lose what they projected for her to lose in between visits, she was getting her hand slapped. And I would always say to her, you're paying for it. You're doing the work. Why are you letting somebody, slap your hand? And she would
Yeah.
say, but that's what she needed. I, on the other hand, realized that if I tried to follow a diet, I was getting bored by the end of the first day. Like,
Yeah.
wow, this is all I can eat, or this is what I have to eat.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so somebody gave me a trick, and it really works. They said, instead of taking that dinner plate and putting your burger on it, okay, take a smaller plate, because guess what? You may not need anything else other than that burger.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how your eyes are deceiving when you look at it and it's a smaller plate. My husband and I now, we share a meal most of the time when we go out, but even at home, I used to go out and buy a whole package of chicken and make it and put it all on the table, and we just eat it because it was there.
Yeah.
Now I take out a couple like chicken tenders, maybe 2 for him, 1 for me, make a salad with it, and we're full. And it's like, how can that be? But it's what you get used to. It's what you condition yourself for.
Yeah. I think I was a health coach for a while. So I used to, the smaller plate's a good idea. Now if you're ambidextrous, this is tough, but eating with your non-dominant hand when you're about halfway full, it prevents you from kind of scooping and gorging yourself with extra. Drinking water in between each bite, or drinking water before you start to eat, and just a few little I don't say they're tricks, but it just prevents you from overindulging. Because we are kind of I grew up in the clean your plate, and that was because we wanted to make sure you were full before you went to bed, because we didn't know how much. It's not my parents were poor, it's just that we didn't you weren't getting snacks before bed, you weren't
Right.
getting your extra things like, my kids always want a snack, and it's like 8 o'clock. I'm like, you've already eaten.
Yeah.
But I'm still hungry with that. So just those small things. And I think now we're kind of in a communal where when we go to eat, we're always conversing. And then by the time you look down, you have no idea how much you've wine or whatever alcohol you've consumed, how much you've actually eaten. So by the time you're done, you're like, I feel miserable. So in that one sitting, you could be, 15 to 2,000 calories. That could be a lot of calories for the day. So I think those are, some things that most don't look at. And like you said before, it's just a matter of you get what you need and put the rest back, and you don't have to waste or save or cook so much for that.
Somebody asked me, we were talking recently with another couple, and they were telling me how much their grocery bill was. So there's 2 of them. There's my husband and myself. Okay. So same type of household, and their grocery bill is almost 4 times what ours is.
Oh, wow.
I looked at them and I said, so what are you eating? And she said, well, they do like wine with their dinner. So there's an added cost. But she said she grew up that you had to have your meat and your vegetable and your starch. And I said, okay. And she said, so I make him a baked potato and myself a baked potato. And I make him a salad and myself she went through the whole thing. And I said, do you eat it all? And she goes, no, most of it goes in the garbage disposal.
Yeah.
So my comment was, okay, why don't you make one baked potato between the two of you if you're going to have the potato?
Yeah.
Less you're going to throw away. I said, are you both eating your full steaks? And she goes, no, and at the price of meat today. And I said, well, did you ever think of sharing one steak or buying smaller steaks? And it was totally like she was blindsided by all that because she was still shopping the way her mother had shopped, cooking the way her mother had taught her to cook all these years.
Yeah.
So life is changing. We can change along with it.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting how we've I don't say evolved, but we also go back to how we were kind of raised as far as how we're eating. So cleaning your plate, yeah, that was great. I mean, when I was a high school kid, that was awesome because that means I could get dessert or I could get more for that. But now you think of it, it's like, I'm not saying that's the reason that half of America is obese, but I think it's a lot like it's just the choices we make and the things we do. Kind of need to evolve with the times of change. It's like you don't need as much as you think you need. We can survive on smaller portions. Maybe it's frequency. Maybe you're not eating as much. It's eating the right things and not so much of the wrong things. And that's what I will use with clients as well. As I don't do meal plans, and like you said, meal plans are kind of after day one, you're like, I hate this. I don't eat half the things you get. So my philosophy is eat what you need more of, eat more of that, but the things you really like, eat, cut that in half or eat less. And they're like, oh, I really like the cookies and the ice cream. I said, well, eat more of the meats and greens and less of your ice cream. You'll probably feel better with that. So,
and you're absolutely right, because there was a period of time about a year and a half ago. There was a lot of stress going on in the house. And so we were making ourselves feel better by getting out of the house after dinner, and we'd take a ride to Dairy Queen.
Oh, yeah.
And we use it as an excuse. My husband and I needed this time away. And when we were just alone together in the car or wherever, we were having conversations and we were getting caught up with life. But at home, we'd eat and just maybe go our separate ways in the house. And about 6 months ago, I said to my husband, I don't like the way my clothes fit. And he looked at me and he said, well, I don't like the way my clothes fit. And I said, we got to go back to what we used to do before we started taking those rides to Dairy Queen. If we feel we need to get out of the house, we will still go for a ride, but we don't go to Dairy Queen. We go to the pharmacy and pick up whatever our prescription is. We go to the grocery store to get more vegetables, whatever we need to do just to get out, or we just go for a ride around the neighborhood and come home. So there are ways to make those changes.
Yeah, it's just getting into I'll say changing the pattern of I'll say resistance. We resist everything that we really like. It's just hard to make that change. It's just like anytime somebody comes in and starts an exercise program, I always tell them the hardest part was pulling the handle on my door to come to the gym, because it's just that you don't know what to expect. It's very frightening, very scary. So it's just trying to do something different out of the normal. And then usually once you get in a habit and routine of that, it usually pans out pretty well. It's just a matter of taking that first step, right?
Absolutely. So are there certain exercises that are better for you than others? So meaning, is it better that we keep our body toned, or is it better that we're, out there sweating so much, trying to, melt the fat down as quickly as possible?
I think there's probably having a combination of the two. You got to have your cardiovascular health, but also your strength. Nothing nothing worse than being in great shape or feeling like you're in great shape, but you can barely lift a 8-pound dumbbell. So it's just, I think it's a good mix. You can, for myself, I do an alternation of kind of more, some days are more cardio centric, some are all about the intensity, and then some are more about the strength. So I think it's just whatever fits. You see a lot of different things depending on where you go and exercise. Some people like to walk only. And you can tell, I can tell, I've been doing this for 14 years, for those who just mainly do cardiovascular exercise. They're very thin, but they have the muscle tone in there is, it's not probably what it should be. So therefore they're, I don't say burning off what they have, but they're more likely they're not trying to increase that muscle tone or strength, or maybe just lacking. So you can tell that sometimes with runners or those who are just really elliptical centric at the gyms, or stair mail, or whatever cardio equipment they choose. So I would say it's best to have a fine balance with that. Because, as we age, things get harder. You want to be stronger. You want to have more balance. You also want to be in shape. So nothing worse than reaching down to pick up your bag of groceries and pull your back, or it's too heavy, you can't lift it. So I think those are, think about the future, not the current state. Because for me, I get some that, they say, I wish I would have done this 10 years ago. Because right now I'm battling, or some may be battling, osteoporosis, or their bones aren't as strong, or their musculature is not where it needs to be. So they they have to work extra hard. And I think, it's difficult for somebody in their 70s or late 70s who are really trying to give a good effort on being in shape, but everything they do, just, it hurts. It's just twice as hard, right?
Well, about 10 years ago, my husband was diagnosed with diabetes. And so I was the good wife who said, okay, we're going to clear out the cupboards. We're going to eat properly. And I'm going to do what you need to do. And we cut out sugar. And I lost close to 100 pounds. He lost,
nice.
He lost 60. Problem was, after about 2 years, his blood sugar was too low. So the doctor basically said to him, you can treat yourself a little more often. And for him, that was like, oh, I get to have cookies, I get to have candy. And actually, he's still doing well eating that way. But all of a sudden, I felt deprived, even though I had done well and I had lost this weight. He was eating Oreos, and I was sitting at the table salivating. And I didn't get my head on straight. And so I gained weight back. And I gained 50 pounds back. Then I went on some medication. I ballooned. And I looked in the mirror one day, and of course, podcasting, I called my doctor and I said, this is horrible. He said, well, to begin with, we can wean you off the medicine. But what about the 50 pounds you put back on? And he was right. And so I have done it slowly. It's okay if my husband eats Oreos in front of me now. I just don't have a taste for them anymore because I see what it did to me. Yeah. And it's not that I can't have a treat. And I do. Brownies and ice cream are my favorite, but I can't have it every night. And I can't have a big bowl of it. I know, okay, you're going to cut the brownie maybe in a quarter, and you're going to put a scoop of ice cream on it. And guess what? That's more than I really need. And I get the flavor. So those are things that I've learned. I've also learned that just because we're in our 70s doesn't mean we can't tone our bodies and lose weight. It just takes a little longer.
Yeah, it is. And that sometimes I think it's more, I don't know if it's just stuff out there that people read or they just don't think it's possible. Some of my most successful clients have been in their 60s and 70s for that. And it's just more of the discipline, right? It's not the hustle and bustle. I just think it's you want to get off the 17 medications you might be on. So let's cut it down to, 8. And some of those you can't control, but what we can control is your weight, your exercise, and just getting your movement in and your cardiovascular exercise. So if we can help you with that, then I think who knows what can happen. But you're right. It's just the cutting those things back and not eating so much of the ones you really like. And it's for some, it's very hard, I think, because they're so used to the sweet treat. It's always the dessert, and it's very hard to put down. But you can do it. It's with anything. I say sweet treats are chocolate covered cookie dough protein bars. I mean, you kind of get your chocolate and your protein with that, and it's just enough, because when you go back to eating brownies and chocolate ice cream, it's like, whoa, too much sugar. And then you're like, this is not how I want to feel.
Right.
For that. But I would say anything's possible as long as you put forth the effort, right?
I love it. So how do your clients find you? And do you only work with local people, or are you working through the internet as well?
So yeah, I do a little bit of online training, I guess you would say. So I've got clients who I've had locally who have moved on to other places. Some kids are in college, some people that are in Florida that travel maybe with that. So most people find me kind of locally, but I do have what I consider online training for that. So most, if you search, my business name is Premier Performance Training, LLC. My logo is basically my face with a hat and glasses on, the guy with the beard. So it's not easy to miss for that, but a lot of people, the Google searches or referrals, or a lot of my stuff I do is like orthopedic work, so preventing injuries or people who have been hurt, trying to get them back to where they can do things to lose that weight for that. Because I don't know if you've ever been injured before, but some people will have lower extremity injuries and they'll gain 15 to 20 pounds because they can't move a whole lot. So they eat themselves into sugar comas and just eat whatever they want. So that's kind of where I come in to help them for that. So online, and then premierperformancetrainer.com is my website.
And we'll make sure that we put that in the show notes. And speaking of injuries, in beginning of end of May, I was feeling really good. I had stepped on the scale at home, and I only do it about every 2 weeks. And it was like, okay, I'm coming down. And I didn't, I don't get overly excited, but I encouraged myself, hey, the weight's coming off. So that day I decided that, hey, I'm going to go run some errands. I'm going to get my car washed, and I'm going to vacuum out my car. And as I vacuumed out one side and went to walk around to the other side, I fell and I re-injured an old injury on my left femur. I could not get up, and my leg just kept getting bigger and bigger. Ended up in the hospital. From the hospital, I went to rehab for a week, and rehab actually taught me how to start moving and strengthen that leg to the point that I don't think my leg has ever been in this good of shape. And the things that they showed me and taught me, and how to use my upper body when my lower body just isn't where it needs to be, or how to use my lower body when I'm feeling fatigued from the waist up. Unbelievable. So I always recommend to people now, go meet with somebody who knows what they're doing, whether it be a physical therapist, an orthopedic specialist, somebody who knows about body movement and exercise. Because since the beginning of June, I have lost 12 pounds, and I haven't changed anything other than my movement. So my eating habits have remained the same. And boy, the energy is unbelievable. So
that's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, and that's one thing. And I was then that's going to probably come across as arrogant, but it is finding the right person, somebody who does know what they're doing. And I would say in my area, I'm the guy for that, but there's a lot of other, trainers who won't take on certain people because they don't know how to work with them. So from the orthopedic side of things, I mean, I've got clients with MS. I've got a 4-year stroke survivor I'm working with now, from cardiac, pulmonary issues to double knee, double hip replacement. So just you've got to find the right person that can help you, because not everybody's a good fit for what you want or what you need.
Absolutely. You are so
for
right.
that.
Well, thank you for joining us today. We'll put all your information in the show notes, so there's no excuse for our listeners not to be able to find you. And thank you for all your good advice today.
You got it. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure. Bye-bye now.
Bye.